All, this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from DrBeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So this is about 10 minutes for a new year at my place. Um, Everybody who has the new year, Happy New Year. So I did a discussion today about the Omicron and the unvaccinated. One of the things that was not feeling right to me was the percentage of unvaccinated versus vaccinated and the absence of the data before and after. So what I did was I looked at the paper, and the authors had some data suggested later on as well. So I want to share that data with you, number one. Number two, I want to look at the population data, and then the folks who are in the hospital, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, and some further data refinement. If I am presenting this data incorrectly, I am happy to take this video down. So uh, please give me your comments if I'm looking at the data correctly. So now this is the same discussion, but with the wrapper of the vaccination status in the community and without the prevalence status, because we don't have that data. We don't have that data in the paper. So let's start our discussion. I think it will become clear as you hear what I'm about to say. And there is a message in here as well, which will be interesting. Let's see if you will pick it up or not. So here are some references to keep in mind. Number one, we know that Pfizer BioNTech on December 8 said that we have preliminary lab studies demonstrate that these 3 doses of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine neutralizes the Omicron variant, while 2 doses show significantly reduced neutralization titer. Now, how reduced? They said data indicate that a third dose of BioNTech increases the neutralizing antibody titers by 25-fold. That means 2 doses were 25 times less. That is why the third dose comes in and increases it by 25 folds. So I'm going to request you to keep this one thing in mind. What this means is that in whatever society they've taken Pfizer, it is possible, and if they've just taken 2 doses, then it is possible that efficacy of the vaccine is really low. And you would actually see that in the numbers. And let me show you in the data here the definition of vaccination. Vaccinated individuals are defined as having 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson or 2 doses of BioNTech Pfizer. So not 3, 2. And we know over here that 2 doses against Omicron are significantly less efficacious. So this is one piece of information, please keep in mind. Second, this is the same paper that I discussed before. In here, I'm going to read this part to you. And here they're saying, this is at the last paragraph, they're saying further research is needed to determine if the difference between waves are affected by pre-existing acquired or natural immunity. 44.3% of the adult South African population was vaccinated as of December 2021, and more than 50% of the population had previous exposure to SARS-CoV-2, or if Omicron. So, number one, maybe this was one of the factors, or maybe Omicron is less pathogenic than previous variants. So, this is their question at the end of the day. I want to refine their message a little more over here. And that is in light of their own data. Remember, in this table here, they say, here in this table, they say that the patient age for the wave 4, the Omicron wave, is 36, correct? That is the mean age, that is the average age that they're finding. Should we not look at the vaccination status of this age group more than adults, all adults? So what I did was I did some more research to figure out what was that. And this is a news site here now, and I'm not fond of this news site, but still there is some data that is interesting and that can be verified. That data is this. It says Now, this is about Hotang, but still it is interesting data. It says it may be, so they're contemplating that why is it that the um, Omicron is not as damaging, or why is it mild? So, one reason they think is seroprevalence or immunity. But check out this over here. It may be that this is a vaccination effect, as 57% of the people over the age of 50 have been vaccinated in the province. They're talking about Gauteng, compared to 34% in the 18 to 49 year group. So I took this line. Again, Netcare's hospitals are spread all over. Majority are in this area, but they are all over. So this number exactly may be different. But I think this is a very good representation of the vaccination in this group, in this age group. So what I did was, over here, instead of using author's suggestion that 44.3% of the adults were all vaccinated, I used 34% vaccination, because that is the prevalent vaccination status for this age group. That was more, or majority of that group was in the hospital. Good. So again, my assumptions may be wrong, and if you tell me that, hey, these are wrong and here is a proof of that, I would take the video down. This is just something that was bothering me. I could not sleep, so here I am talking about it with you. Okay, now the second part here, that is 50% or greater of the population has had previous exposure. It is an interesting thing to say, but within their own paper, they do not use this data at all. And because their numbers only talk about vaccinated or unvaccinated, they do not talk about previously infected or previously infected plus vaccinated, we cannot use this data. So I'm going to leave this second sentence, just a first sentence, and I'm going to refine their message over here to say, instead of 44.3%, 34%. So with this data in our mind, and now with these tables here, I have now put this data again. I'm not going to go over the PowerPoint again. We have done that. Please watch part one. Happy New Year to you, whoever is watching. Now let's look at the data. So this is the Omicron time. We are in the humanities coffee shop, and these are gifts for humanity. Here is someone saying, "Don't tase me, bro." And here we are. Median age 36. Gauteng province example we just discussed, 34% vaccination in this group, this up to 40 years of age. Now, or 49 years of age. I would suspect that younger group, the group that they are seeing in the hospitals, that would have even lesser vaccination. But let's use it, 34%. Now, this does not tell us HIV status. This does not tell us diabetes status, uncontrolled diabetes status. This does not tell us previous infection plus vaccination. And it also does not tell us the uh, duration of the vaccination, one shot, and all. So all that is still missing. And the definition of vaccination here that I showed you on the CNBC site versus the definition of the vaccination for the authors may be different. So all those are the weaknesses, but still I think this data is interesting to use instead of saying 44.3% vaccination. So now let's see how this data looks to us. In the society, vaccinated are 34% in this age group. That means everybody else, according to author's way of grouping, is non-vaccinated. That could include one-shot vaccinated. That could include previously infected and recovered. That could include previously infected and then one shot. And that could include all those who are 100% SARS-CoV-2 naive. That is, they never were exposed before and they never had a vaccine before. All of them are in this group. 66%. So this We do not know. This we do not know. Good. This is the data. This is what we have to work with. Now, out of these folks, there were a number of individuals who became sick, who had the COVID. Many of them did not go to hospitals. Others went to hospitals, some for a problem, let's say with the breathing issue, some went for something else and incidentally found to have the SARS-CoV-2 as well. Authors mention that. So all good, understood. They are the ones at the door of a hospital. In the hospital, when they are tested, and everybody is tested, then 2,315 are identified to have positive COVID. Here, once again, the data that is missing is what percentage of them were vaccinated versus whatever this definition of unvaccinated. I think this is an incorrect definition of unvaccinated or vaccinated, because we have 1 shot vaccinated, 2 shot vaccinated, 2 shot and 2 weeks vaccinated, previous infection. So I'm repeating myself, but I hope you're keeping this in your mind, that these are multiple groups that are missing in here. There is just a very broad category of vaccinated or unvaccinated. So here, the folks who ended up at the hospital, one way or the other, and got diagnosed positive COVID, we do not know how many were vaccinated and how many were not. It is possible. So I'm going to now speak a sentence that I think should have been part of this paper as well. But again, authors were looking for some data and they presented it. We can't fault them for that. Thank you for doing this to the authors. Is this that there is a 1-to-1 similar ratio and the representation of that similar proportion in this group? We do not know. Or is there a difference? For example, 34% vaccinated are represented only 10% here. And 66% societies unvaccinated are represented at 90% here. Don't know. Or were they 1-to-1? For example, 34% vaccinated and 34% here. 66% unvaccinated and 66% here. We do not know that. I really think that authors had that data if patients came in and they were positive. Anyways, I hope that this part is clear, that we have an unknown here. Then this next part, out of these 2,315 individuals, patients, 971 were admitted. Correct? We saw that last time too. That means a number of individuals were discharged or not even admitted, just sent back that, hey, you're good. How many of those were vaccinated and were not that severe and they said, you can go back? How many of those were unvaccinated and were not in a bad shape and they said, you can go back? All we know is, out of them, these 2,315, 235 vaccinated individuals were admitted. This is 24.2%, correct? And they say it's here in their tables. 24.2% or 235 individuals, correct? Now this 24.2% seems very close to this representation of the vaccinated folks as well. Unvaccinated, 645 individuals, patients, out of 971, that is 66.4% of unvaccinated represented in the admissions. And in the society, unvaccinated are also 66%. Again, this is not zero prevalence. This is author's definition of vaccinated versus unvaccinated. It does not, this particular model, which authors chose to have, does not look at the zero prevalence. So zero prevalence could have been 70% here. and the whole model would turn on its head. But that data is not here. What we know is just this much. So in the society, the unvaccinated are 66%. In the admission, unvaccinated are represented as 66.4% as well. The only interesting thing is, in the society, vaccinated are 34%. In the admissions, vaccinated are 24.2%. There is a 9.4% unknown as well. It is possible that they are all part of this. That would actually make it 1-to-1. One vaccinated infecting getting in the hospital equal to one unvaccinated infected getting in the hospital. And we saw that the vaccine's efficacy is down. So if the efficacy is down, then vaccinated and unvaccinated may just be equal. Or this 9.4% could go to the unvaccinated, and that would tip the balance. Or this could be distributed in some other way. So we do not know. And so we cannot really figure out what to do with this number. So we're going to stay here. In the society, 34%, and in the hospital, lesser than that, but 24%. Unvaccinated in the society and in the hospital, almost 1-to-1. And the folks who died, 2.7%, 27 out of 971. Once again, there is another missing piece of data here, at least in this study or research letter. It's not a study, research letter. And that is, out of these folks who were unvaccinated, how many were the ones that died? And out of those who were vaccinated, how many were the ones that died? That will be an interesting number to know, and I'm sure that they have this data. That will be interesting to know, because if you say that the vaccine offers protection from severe cases and death more than unvaccinated state, then here there should be some interesting data to see. But that data is not available. There is a overall death rate offered, and that is 2.7%, 27 out of 971, but this breakdown is not available. So when I look at this data, I have a do you have the same question in your mind, or the interpretation here? And this is where I'm going to ask you, if my interpretation is not correct, I would take this video down. And that is, it almost seems like 1-to-1 representation. Of course, the vaccinated 34 to 24 is not 1-to-1. 66 to 66 is 1-to-1. So is it that in the admissions, the percentage of vaccinated, unvaccinated is high because in the society, the percentage of unvaccinated is high? Or this model would, now this is the last part and then I'll stop. And happy new year, it is 7 minutes now. Or this model could stand on its head if we had said, but we don't have that data, so we cannot really say it. If we had said that in the society, 70% are immune trained, 30% are not trained, and then in the admitted, from these 30% are 66% patients, then we have a problem. Then we could say that unvaccinated or not immune trained are becoming more sick with Omicron compared to immune trained. But that data is not available. I'll look at some studies. I was actually lying down in the bed and looking at various studies. So there were some studies that actually can show that data. So I would see if I can present them tomorrow. Today, this is it. I just wanted to make sure that we look at this data with the population percentages and look at the representation and know where the gaps are in this study data. So now, is it the vaccine efficacy plus previous infection efficacy, or is it that the virus is weaker, or is this a combination? To me, it seems like if this is a 1-to-1 here, then how can we say really that the vaccine has done a better job? Yes, sure, 34% versus 24%. Here, unvaccinated 66 and 66. Previous infection efficacy cannot even be measured here because it's not present in the data anywhere. So for the authors to make that statement that maybe this was a previous infection efficacy, that is, there's no data. So why to make that statement when there is no data? Or they're saying, hey, go do some studies and maybe look at that too. So anyways, I'm going to stop now. Um, let's just very quickly see. Does this make sense? Okay, so my apologies for bringing you all together once again at this time and then on a new year time, but I couldn't find anything better to do other than I like to start my new year with the work that I do. So I'm not doing anything else but the work that I want to do. That sets the tone for my new year. But this was bothering me. I couldn't actually sleep. I kept thinking that this 66% seems the message seemed like unvaccinated are going more and getting more admitted in the hospital. And possibly it's not the virus being mild, but it is the community being stronger. And if it is not strong, they are falling ill to the virus in the same way. And what kept ringing in my head was Dr. Kutsia had said, in my outpatient, they were half vaccinated and half unvaccinated, and all of them were mildly impacted and they were managed out in the outpatient. So these two were not sitting right with me. So, anyways, here is a discussion. If I am not really doing good justice to it, let me know and I'll remove it. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work, there are 3 links in the description. One is to buy me a coffee, the other one is to use a PayPal, a third one is to use or to become a patron. So, with this, thank you very much. Happy New Year. I would see you tomorrow with some more studies. I am digging in this and hopefully we'll get to the heart of the matter. Bye bye for now.